Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanan Shalakaya Chukshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Narayanam Gurum Vande Sharanyam Bhakta Bandhavam Gauram Purnam Radhadasyam Pradayakam Rupanugacharya Varyam Rupa Manjari Preshtakam Patita Pavana Karuniyam Yugacharya Narayanam Vancha Kalpataruyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Twise Namaha Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Ismirahasar Murali Manohara Radhikara Shikamam Kripanide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vrindai Tulasi Devyai Priyai Keshava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I begin offering my most humble obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of Paramaraditama Sri Guru Pada Padmo Nitalila Pravishtam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Sata Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudeva. And to my most worshipable Shiksha and Sannyasa Guru Nitalila Pravishtam Vishnupada Ashtotara Sata Srimad Srila Bhakti Vijnana Bharati Goswami Maharaj. And to all Shri Rupanva Gauriya Guru Varga, to all Tridandis, Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all the assembled devotees here today, my most respectful obeisances. So by the causeless mercy of Srila Gurudeva and all Mahabhagavatas Acharyas, we are able to assemble here one more time. So today we are in the chapter 18, the last chapter, Moksha Yoga, the yoga of liberation. So in this chapter, Krishna, he will discuss so many different types of subjects, so many. So, but I will just, summarize and get the main shlokas, most important shlokas, and we will discuss. So verse 1, Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, O slayer of Keshi, O Rishikesh, master of the senses, I wish to understand clearly the distinction between the principle of renunciation of action, sannyasa, and the principle of renouncing the fruits of action. Okay, so here two things. To renounce the action itself is what we call a sannyasa. And to renounce the fruits of the action, but not the action itself, but the fruits of the action, this is called tyaga. So two things. Now, Arjuna, he wants to understand what is the difference, what is the, benefits of both. So in the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, this chapter explains the following subjects: the three types of sannyasa, jnana, and karma, the conclusive understanding of liberation, mukti, and the most confidential essence of bhakti. So Krishna, he will somehow summarize everything with different words. In the previous chapter, Sri Bhagavan said, after becoming devoid of all material desires, those who seek liberation perform various types of sacrifice, giving charity, and engage in penances, while uttering the word Tat that we discussed in the previous chapter, that verse which says about Om Tat Sat, right? Yes. So in this way, Srila Gurudeva, he also complements in his commentary, saying, In some parts of the Gita, Bhagavan Shri Krishna has given instructions about renunciation of action, karma sannyasa. This is also one chapter. And in other parts, he has given the instruction to not completely abandon action, but to renounce fruits of all actions. From a superficial perspective, there seems to be a contradiction between these two instructions. Arjuna wants Krishna to remove the doubts of those people with gross, mundane intelligence. So he's asking these questions about the real meaning of Tyaga and Sannyas, about the difference between them, and about their unique characteristics. Verse 2. Sri Bhagavan said, according to the enlightened sages, completely giving up all fruitive action is renunciation, sannyasa. Whereas to abandon the fruits of all action is called detachment, tyaga. So here is the difference between renunciation and detachment. Renunciation is to avoid completely the actions, and detachment is to renounce only the fruits, not to be attached to the fruits of the actions. Why? Because most of the time we have to act. And even there are actions within bhakti, within dharma. So acting is necessary, right? So it's so here in the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, the term sannyasa means to completely give up all kamya karma. Kamya karma means materially motivated action, such as perform a yagya to beget a son or attain the heavenly planets. But it does not imply that one should give up nitya karma, means the obligatory duties, such as remembering the Gayatri mantras. So in this way, Krishna is already answering that somehow we have to perform some activities. We cannot renounce everything. The renunciation of everything is not recommended, but the detachment of the fruits of the actions, that is recommended. Then we move to the verse number 4. O best of the Bharatas, hear my conclusive opinion concerning renunciation. O foremost among men, renunciation is said to be of 3 kinds. Verse 5. The practice of sacrifice, charity, and austerity should not be given up, for these activities are obligatory. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and austerity purify the hearts of even the wise. So Krishna here, he mentions some activities which cannot be avoided. Verse 6. O Partha, one should perform all of these activities, having given up the ego of being the doer and abandoning attachment to the results of action. This is my definite and supreme opinion. So this is one of the most important, actually, points of the Gita that is very difficult to understand, although it is simple somehow. It's about the doer, like being the doer, like means the karta. So Krishna says in the verse, kartavyaniti. Means we should not think that we are the doer. So then he says, having given up the ego of being the doer and abandoning attachment to the results of action. So, but who is the doer? First of all, we are influenced by the 3 modes of material nature, right? This is what is actually moving us. The karma, which is given by Paramatma himself, and the wish and the will of providence, right? Even by the end of this chapter, Krishna, he will tell Arjuna, doesn't matter if you are hesitating or not now, fight. The thing is that you will fight anyway, because this is your nature, kshatriya. and you are going to be bound to, do and act according to that. So you are not the doer, right? Then now we are moving to the verse. We're going to make a big jump. Now Krishna, he is describing that all the different, types of, duties based on the, the three modes of material nature. So he describes so many things, all these different types of actions based also in the three modes of material nature, like that. So then verse 26. That performer of action who has no desire for the fruit of his actions, who is free from false ego, endowed with fortitude and enthusiasm, and who is unaffected by his action's success or failure, is said to be influenced by the quality of goodness. Again, he's dividing the performer of action within the three modes of material nature. Then he's going also to describe the proper action according to rajas and sattva and tamas as well. This is not so important. I am moving forward. This is then verse 37. That happiness which is beginning is like poison, but in the end is like nectar, and which is generated from pure intelligence related to the transcendental self, is declared to be governed by the quality of goodness. This verse is important. What Krishna is saying, that if you are aspiring for happiness in the mode of goodness, in the beginning it's like poison, but at the end it is like nectar. So, and this is what we consider to be like spiritual life. In the beginning, it's going to be bitter, hard. Why? Because you're cleaning your anarthas, and this process is painful. But at the end, it's going to be sweet. It's going to be nice. So, and then he says, this is generated by from pure intelligence. From pure intelligence. Means if you are really intelligent, you will engage in a spiritual life from the very tender age. As Prahlada Maharaj says, engage in bhakti from the very beginning of your life. Then you quickly will be able to clean up the anarthas, and then you can enjoy a very sweet spiritual life. But those who are not intelligent, they want to just, enjoy the material senses, etc. They are going to have a very sweet life in the beginning, but at the end, it will be very bitter. Then verse 38. Happiness in the mode of passion is known to be produced by the senses' contact with their sense objects. It is like nectar in the beginning, but like poison in the end. So this is the Rajasic happiness. Rajasic happiness is sweet in the beginning, but like poison in the end. Okay? He used the word visham. Visham viva tat sukam rajasam smritam. Means like poison. Verse 39. That happiness which from beginning to end covers the nature of the spirit soul, and which arises from sleep, laziness, useless activity, and so forth, is said to be governed by the quality of darkness. So, what is that type of happiness? There is actually no happiness. There is actually no happiness at all. It is completely, what to say, completely absence of life itself. It's only darkness and laziness and no sleepiness, things which are covering completely the true nature of the self. People think it is happiness, but actually this is not happiness. Then now we are moving to again, we're going to give a big jump and go to the verse 47. It is more beneficial to perform one's own occupational duty, swadharma, even though imperfectly, than to perfectly execute the duty of another, paradharma. By performing work according to his nature, a man incurs no sin. So this is also a very famous verse that Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Better you do your work, even imperfectly, than try to do someone else's work perfectly. That's not advisable. That's not advisable. Okay? When you follow your duty, you do not incur in sin. What is the context of this? It is the battle that that Arjuna is fearing to kill his own relatives and important people that he respects and he loves and appreciates, like for example Dronacharya and others. So he thinks it will be a sin, but Krishna is saying no, it's not a sin. Not a sin. Don't try to be a peacemaker, a pacifier. We have not come for this. You have to fight. Switch off the Gandhi's mode and turn on the Arjuna's mode. Then verse 49. One whose intelligence is not attached to anything material, whose mind is controlled, and who is free from all desires, even the desire to achieve the happiness of Brahmalok, completely renounces prescribed duties. He attains supreme perfection in the form of reaction-free action. So what is reaction-free action? It is when you act according to bhakti. The only way to act without incurring in the different reactions, that is only when you do bhakti. And here, in this context, bhakti means Arjuna has to follow Krishna's order and advice. For Arjuna, this is bhakti here, to follow Bhagavan's order, right? So in this way, if he follows like so, he will not take any type of reaction. So, and you should not even desire for happiness, even the happiness found in Brahmalok. And you should become detached from everything material, control your mind, be free from all desires. Here means all material desires, selfish desires, and renounce the prescribed duties. Krishna is going to repeat that for Arjuna in the verse 65, 66, that he says, Sarvadharmam parityaja, to renounce your prescribed duties and everything. So in one sense, although Krishna, he wants Arjuna to perform his duty as a kshatriya and fight, he's giving to Arjuna a higher instruction that is actually to give up all these mundane duties, only to surrender to Krishna. So if that would not be in the context of the relation with Krishna, then Arjuna, he would be able only to be a kshatriya. But Krishna wants him to give up even that conception and fight only because Krishna is ordering him, not because he's just a kshatriya, understand, but because Krishna wants him to fight. So Krishna's order is beyond that, sense of duty and the position of dharma that Arjuna possesses, right? It seems to be contradictory, but it is not. It's very subtle. Many times Krishna is being very subtle and like seems to be contradictory, but it is not. Because once you are surrendered to Bhagavan, to Krishna, then automatically you are performing pure bhakti, right? You already gave up everything. All right, so let us move on. Verse 54, a very famous verse. Brahma bhutta prasannatmana shushachina kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labate param. A person thus situated in realization of Brahma becomes fully joyful. He neither laments nor hankers for anything. Being equally disposed to all beings, he attains my pure bhakti, which is blessed with the symptoms of Prema. So Krishna is saying first, you have to realize Brahma. Means you have to become equally disposed towards all the living entities, just like a child. In Gurudev's purport, he mentions that you should be like a child, and child sees everyone like same. The child, even if the person is like a, what to say, like a criminal or whatever. A child cannot recognize, like a dog cannot recognize who is who. The dog does not judge you by your character, by your, the dogs just judging you by how you treat the dog itself, right? Nothing else. So, of course, the level of the dog or the child is ignorance, right? We are not willing to be in that level of ignorance. So to come to the level of Brahma Bhuta, you have to cross a lot of discrimination and to realize who is who, of course. Otherwise, you will not be able to discriminate who is guru or who is not, who is a sadhu and who is a bhogi, like that. So it does not make sense, right? But once you have entering the discrimination process, then you realize that everything is different. Everyone has their own qualifications and levels and adhikar, everything. Then you realize the Supreme Lord's reality, this Brahma. Then again, you come to the point of seeing everything equally, but from the point of view of spirituality, from the point of view of God. It's not under ignorance. So there are two ways of seeing everything equally, under ignorance and under knowledge. So what Krishna here means is to see everything equal, but from the point of view of knowledge, of discrimination, right? And that means from the point of view of compassion, from the point of view of mercy. Because God, he knows our faults. He's not seeing everyone without faults. He knows, but he does not consider it. But that's the difference. So this is, this discrimination with knowledge means mercy. So if you achieve that point, then you can have pure bhakti. You can attain pure bhakti, but has not yet attained. This verse does not describe the stage of bhakti. This verse describes the stage of Brahma Bhuta. So then Gurudev in his purport, he says, having attained Brahma Bhuta, the state of transcendence, it is still necessary that one have transcendental devotion in order to understand Parabrahma Shri Krishna. So Parabrahma Shri Krishna is only understood through bhakti, not through meditation or contemplation. That is a symptom of the Brahmabhuta stage. Okay, only contemplation, meditation like that. It's a very long purport. Anyone who wishes to go deeper can read. But in simple lines, that is the point. So now verse 55, also a very famous one. Bhaktya mam abjanati javam achasmi tattvaha tato mam tattvato gyatva vishwati tadanam taram. It is only through pure devotional service that one can actually comprehend the truth concerning my glories and the nature of my original transcendental form. One who thus understands me as I am enters my eternal pastimes on the strength of Prema Bhakti. Now Krishna is describing Prema Bhakti. So Krishna is saying, I am not that Brahma. In previous chapter, Krishna already told this Brahma is just the brightness coming from my body. But my nature, my glories, and my original form, they are transcendental. And those who understand that, they can enter in my pastimes. Those pastimes are in Goloka Vrindavan. The next, we're going to move to the verse 56. And by my grace, my exclusive devotee attains the eternal and imperishable realm of Vaikuntha, even though he always engages in various types of duties. So only my exclusive devotees, they attain my eternal and imperishable realm of Vaikuntha. Even though he always engages in various types of duties. But Krishna says this by my grace, not only by his endeavor. So just like in this Damodar Vrata, we are listening this Damodar Lila, this Krishna Dambandha Lila, in which Jashoda is trying to bind Krishna, but the rope is always short 2 fingers, right? So the significance of these 2 fingers are, 1 finger means chesta, means endeavor, in practice, in sadhana. And the 2nd finger is kripa, or mercy, or grace. So first sadhaka has to show endeavor, show desire, and then by the mercy of Krishna, he will accomplish his perfection. Okay? Not only by either only endeavor or only by waiting the mercy. That will not happen. Both have to come. Then verse 57. With your mind free from the false ego of being the doer. Again, Krishna is mentioning the doer. With your mind free from the false ego of being the doer, wholeheartedly offering all your activities to me, being fully devoted to me, and taking shelter of the yoga of unwavering intelligence, remain always absorbed in full consciousness of me. So this is also somehow summarizing also everything that Krishna already told. Not to think that you are the doer, to give up this false ego, offering all the fruits of your activities to me, being fully devoted to me, and taking shelter of the Buddhi Yoga. Then you remain always absorbed in full consciousness of me. Machitta satatam bhava. Here there is like, a little bit of many chapters only in this verse. Then verse 58. By constantly remember me with wholehearted devotion, you will, by my grace, cross over all obstacles. But if out of false ego, you neglect my instructions, you will attain a ruination in the form of continued material existence. So we have to surrender to Krishna and completely devote our lives to him. then by his grace, we will cross over all obstacles. But if you think that you are the doer, you are the controller, if you don't do this and this and this, then everything will be, not accomplished. Then Krishna say, no, you're neglecting my instructions. And by neglecting my instructions, you will only be ruined. Continually born again and again. I know that seems very difficult and very challenging. How to just, surrender, how to just, stop doing things. No, it's not to stop doing things. It's to stop enjoying the fruits of your actions and not offering those fruits to Krishna. And you can enjoy afterwards. It's not that you're going to give up everything. No, you can enjoy after Krishna. That's the main thing. After Krishna, you can enjoy anything, no problem. Of course, our mood is not like pure enjoyment. Our mood is seva, service. But service is also enjoyable. We are serving the prasadam in the sense that we are not eating, we are serving. Because it's not different from Krishna. We are serving, devotees when we open a temple, when we open our houses, etc. like that. Okay? Then 59. Your resolution to not fight is solely due to this false ego, but it will only go in vain, for my material energy, in her form as the mode of passion, will compel you to fight anyway. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, my energy will compel you to fight. You are just, wasting your time with this brainstorm. Finally, things will happen, as I wish. So actually, this is a very good instruction for us. Stop fighting in your mind with life, with the world, and just do bhakti. Just let Krishna's wish take over your life. Let he be the center of your life. And then you see that everything will change. Completely changing. But till the moment you are holding to something, be it a belief, be it an action, be it some person, some, type of activity, whatever, some false hope, Krishna cannot do. In some way that he's not doing for Arjuna. Till the moment Arjuna will consciously give up that, independence, right? That's what Krishna wants. And we don't have Krishna, of course, in our lives, but we have Gurudev. And through him, we are going to be guided. And when we act according to Guru's order, then we are not getting reactions. This is how Krishna acts in our life. Then verse 60. O son of Kunti, you will be helplessly compelled to perform that action which in your deluded state you now wish to avoid, because you are bound to act in accordance with your inborn nature. 61, also famous verse. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshirjuna tishtati brahmayam sarvabhutani yantarudhani maya. O Arjuna, the indwelling super soul is situated in the heart of all living beings. By his illusory potency, he is causing them to wander in the cycle of birth and death, as if they are mounted on a machine. Mounted on a machine means the soul is inside of a body. Here, this body means this machine, this yantra, vehicle. Yantra means a vehicle, which is, making the soul to move here and there. And the super soul is there inside of our heart. But by his illusory potency, he's causing them to wander in the cycle of birth and death. Means we are incarnating again and again in different types of bodies. Then verse 63. Thus I have instructed you in this knowledge, which is more confidential than the secret knowledge of Brahma. Reflect fully on this confidential knowledge, and then act as you wish. So Krishna, he's trying to convince Arjuna, but he cannot force him to do anything. Nevertheless, Krishna says, you're going to end up acting anyway, according to the influence of the mode of passion and of your swabhava of kshatriya. But I don't want just that you should act randomly and without discrimination. I want you to understand and act with consciousness of me. Because if Krishna would not say anything, although Arjuna was hesitating, he would end up fighting. But that fight would not be the same fight as if now he's doing with complete Krishna consciousness, complete understanding, right? So there are two ways of acting. One is acting under the complete darkness of the, pulling of the material forces. And the second type is to act according to Krishna consciousness, according to what is Krishna's desires. So understand, so this is like the whole picture of the battle and how Arjuna was somehow coming to act in the same way that he would, but now with consciousness, because Krishna instructed him and Krishna gave him the discrimination. Then let us move on to the verse 65, the most important verse of the Bhagavad-gita. Manmana bhava mad bhaktam adhyajimam namaskuru mame vaisasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Absorb your consciousness in me, become my devotee, by dedicating yourself to such practices as hearing about and glorifying my names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Worship me and offer obeisances to me. Thus you will certainly attain me. This truth I swear to you, because you are most dear to me. So this is how Krishna is telling Arjuna how to perform bhakti. At least something he is giving. So in Gurudev's commentary, Gurudeva says, Manmana bhava means to absorb one's mind exclusively in Krishna. Shri Krishna himself has accepted the gopis as the epitome of Manmana bhava. And he expresses this to Uddhav in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:46-4-6. What Krishna is saying to Uddhav? Dear Uddhav, the minds of the gopis are always absorbed in me. I am their very life and their all in all. It is for my sake alone that they have relinquished everything, including their homes, husbands, sons, relatives, shyness, and religious principles. They constantly remain absorbed in thoughts of me alone, because they have faith in my statement that I will come. They are maintaining their lives somehow or other with great difficulty and are waiting for me. So when Krishna was sending Uddhav to Vrindavan, Krishna, he tried to prepare somehow Uddhav's mind, a little bit speak about the gopis' glories. And Krishna, he says that I told them I was coming the day after tomorrow. But I didn't, of course. But they're still waiting for me because they believed me. So for them, I can come at any day. Because if I didn't come the day after tomorrow, means I can come the next day, they don't know. So they're holding onto that hope that I am about to come. And they're waiting for me. They are not willing to die. Because if they die, they know I will be displeased. Therefore, they are keeping their lives somehow. but they're not eating. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not bathing. They're not doing anything. They are just there at Uddavakyari, lying on the ground, crying in the middle of the muddy ground, because their tears mixed with the soil and becomes a very muddy place. And when they try to stand up and move, they slip, and then they fall again in the mud. This is the pathetic situation, you know. Then Srila Gurudeva, he continues. This description of the gopis' anxiety in their separation from Krishna is the highest example of manmanabhava. Now hear about the gopis' absorption in Krishna while they are in Purvaraga, that state prior to meeting with him. So Purvaraga is a type of separation that happens before the meeting, okay? So Gurudev is going to tell one pastime. Once, a newly married gopi came to live in Nandagaon. This gopi had heard of Krishna's name and his supremely attractive and wonderful activities. Yet she had never had the good fortune to see him directly. Every day, Krishna sounded his flute as he entered the forest to tend the cows with his friends. Upon hearing that sound, all the residents of Braj would gather on the royal path, eager to see the unparalleled sweetness of his beauty. Some stood on the balconies and some climbed trees. Some stood near the path and some peeped through windows. That newly married gopi also longed to go and see Krishna, but her mother-in-law forbade her by saying, "A black snake out there will bite you. You should not go." So that black snake is Krishna. So her mother-in-law already knew somehow the danger of coming in contact with Krishna, and she prevented her. But the newly wedded bride contended this by saying, "Your daughter has gone out, so why do you forbid me?" But her mother-in-law would not relent. The young gopi neglected this instruction and sneaked out to behind a grove beside the royal path, which allowed her to see Krishna. Understanding her mind, Krishna slightly twisted the tail of a calf, who took off, running and jumping over to that new gopi, coming to a stop just near her. So Krishna, he was behind the calf, and he took the tail and he twisted, and the calf started jumping. So Krishna was jumping behind in the direction of that gopi. So he came very close to her. So Krishna chased after the calf and finally arrived at that very spot. For a mere moment, he stood there in his beautiful threefold bending form, touched the chin of that gopi like this with his flute, and then ran off to rejoin his friends. The new gopi, now totally absorbed in the sweetness of Krishna's beautiful form, lost her external consciousness and stood motionless as Krishna entered the forest. A considerable amount of time passed. When she did not return home, her mother-in-law came searching for her. Upon finding her in that condition, she shook that gopi and cried, "What I feared has happened. You have been bitten by that black snake." She brought the gopi back to her house and ordered her to extract butter from yogurt kept in a clay pot. The bride still had not regained her external consciousness. Mistaking a pot full of mustard seeds for yogurt, she began to churn. Sometimes she would churn the mustard seeds and sometimes not. So sometimes a harsh sound came from her churning and sometimes no sound. Noticing this, her mother-in-law ordered her to bring water from the well instead. She placed 3 pots on the gopi's head, one on top of the other. She then placed a rope in one hand and a little baby to carry on her hip in the other arm. She then sent her to fetch water from the well. The bride went to the well and prepared the rope to haul water. But she was not in her natural state of mind. and proceeded to tie the rope around the baby's neck. The other gopis at the well stopped her, crying, "What happened to her? It seems she is possessed by a ghost." But some gopis knew the reality of the situation and said, "No, no, no, no. It is not a ghost, but the son of Nanda Maharaj who possessed her." So this is an example of man mana bhava, how to be completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, that you should forget everything else. You should completely become like mad. The instruction of Mad Bhakto Bhava, become my devotee, is for those who cannot become absorbed in Krishna as the gopis are. So here Gurudev is explaining this verse. Gurudev is saying that Krishna gave a hierarchy of, states of consciousness, of Krishna consciousness. So the higher one is Manmana Bhava. But if you cannot be Manmana Bhava, then you should be Mad Bhakto Bhava. Means to become his devotee. So Gurudev is saying, Mad Bhakto Bhava means to offer oneself fully onto the lotus feet of Bhagavan. How can a bhakta render service continuously? In this regard, the story of Prahlada Maharaj has been described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlada Maharaj, he manifested he described the 9 limbs of bhakti, and he tried to become surrendered, right? By accepting whatever his father was doing and so many things, right? So this is an example of that level of devotee. Then Srila Gurudev mentions about Maharaj Ambarish, who is also as an example of complete surrender. And also he explained the example of Bivamangala Thakur, who before was attached to a prostitute. Then she advised him to go to Vrindavan and to do bhajan. And by that, he actually got his, realization. He got darshan of Krishna, Radharani, etc., like that. Like that. So now verse 66. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshaishami mashuchaha. Completely abandoning all bodily and mental dharma, such as varna and ashram, fully surrendered to me alone, I shall liberate you from all reactions to your sins. Do not grieve. So what Krishna is telling to Arjuna now is that in order to become my devotee, you have to surrender first. Actually, these verses, they are actually misplaced in order. First should come the Sarvadharma, and then after the Manmana Bhava verse, the 65 one. Because surrender comes before bhakti. Okay? So then the verse 67. You should never explain this scripture of Srimad Bhagavad-gita to one whose senses are uncontrolled, to a non-devotee, to one devoid of serving mood, or to one who is envious of me. So now Krishna is instructing Arjuna. You heard so much, but you cannot tell that to everyone. So these are the conditions to whom you can share this knowledge. In verse 68, he who instructs this most confidential knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita to my devotees will attain the topmost transcendental devotion to me. Thus becoming free from all doubts, he will finally attain me. So preaching Bhagavad Gita makes Krishna happy and makes him grant you transcendental devotion to him. Then verse 69. No one in human society is more dear to me than one who explains this message of the Gita to others. nor will there ever be anyone more dear to me than him. So Krishna is very attached to the preachers. Those who are preaching, Krishna is very attached to them. Krishna is considering them to be very, very, very dear to him. As Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to say, there are three types of mridanga. One is the drum itself, which you play and then sounds. The second mridanga is the Brihat Mridanga, that is the book, which can be spread and propagated, and the glories of the holy names, like that. But the third mridanga is the preacher, without whom the second and the first cannot be accomplished. You cannot propagate the sound of the mridanga without the preacher, and you cannot write a book or publish the book or distribute or explain the book without the preacher. So the most important one is the preacher. Is a preacher. The mridanga might stop or might not even be available. The book also might not be printed. It may be finished. It may be limited, but it can even be forbidden. In some places, in some countries, it is forbidden to perform sankirtan or book distribution. But the preacher, he can go anywhere without stop. Like we go to Russia, to China, we just disguise ourselves as common tourists, and we go for preaching. Like that. Then verse 72. O Partha, the winner of wealth, Dhananjaya, have you heard this Gita with undivided attention? And having heard it, has your delusion born of ignorance been dispelled? So we have to hear Gita with undivided attention. Then we can actually collect the fruits of the Gita. Actually, in bhakti is always like that. If you divide your attention with other things, you won't get the full benefit. In chanting, in hearing Harikatha, in doing kirtan, whatever, you should be always very much focused. Then verse 73. Then Arjuna said, O Achyuta, my delusion has been dispelled by your grace, and remembrance of my true self has been regained. My doubts have been dispelled, and I am situated firmly in true knowledge. I will now carry out your order. So Arjuna finally was convinced, he was enlightened. Not only convinced, but he was enlightened. He realized by himself. Remember that Krishna is not just rationally or logically convincing Arjuna. He's enlightening him. He's giving realization to him. That's the difference between someone who comes with a materialistic knowledge and the spiritual master who is enlightening someone. He's not only giving information, he's giving Shakti, he's giving potency from heart to heart. And that will give realization. Because information you can get anywhere. And you can read even the book by yourself. But that will not give you realization. Because bhakti comes from bhakti. Bhakti comes from the heart of those who have bhakti to us. Means in the sense that we have the potential to manifest bhakti in our heart. But that has to be ignited by something else. Just like a candle has the potency to light, but it cannot ignite by itself. You need another candle to come and touch it. So in the same way, our soul has the propensity, the potential to serve Krishna, but it has to be enlightened by someone who already has that manifested. In this way, no, we have one more. Verse 78. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all yoga, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme wielder of the bow, there will surely be majestic opulence, victory, prosperity, and adherence to righteousness. This is my conclusive opinion. Whose conclusion is that? This is Sanjay. Sanjay is narrating to what is his name?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra. Yes, thank you so much, Chandrika. Chandrika is listening with one pointed attention. Very good. So Sanjay is now he's concluding, and he is actually telling, that he had this realization, that he heard this Bhagavad-gita, and he has realization. So by Gurudev's causeless mercy, we are completing this study very, very nicely in this most auspicious Kartik Brata. Today also Bahulashtami. Today is the appearance of Radha Kunda. And I hope that all of you somehow got benefited by this study. I know that it's not possible to, keep everything, absorb everything, but something will stick in, and it will start to make sense later on. And you have to read again and again Bhagavad Gita, as the years are passing by, we have to revisit and hear again and read again for sure. So yeah, but especially I want to thank first to Chandrika, who had the desire to arrange for these classes, and she inspired me to arrange for these meetings, and of course to all of you who are here to make this meeting even more nice. And yes, so any question, any comments, anyone?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the entire session of Bhagavad Gita. But at the end,